Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, I will be reading my first creepypasta. I hope you all enjoy. I enjoy the heck out of these stories, and I've been contemplating reading a few of them for quite some time. If you do enjoy it, please let me know. If you don't enjoy it, if you could, just let me know why, just so I can maybe change something, or whatever the case may be. That being said, here we go. I'm gonna do my best. It is 1 o'clock in the morning. That's enough of that. Here we go. Here's my story. This was taken from 4chan. It was written Friday, September 28th, 2012 at 1:30 in the a.m. Eastern Time. That being said, I don't know what I'm going to read. I didn't even read ahead, so here we go. Here's my story. I'm 16 years old. I'm black and have family down in Alabama. They farm and own a huge amount of land in Huntsville. My uncle owns a big house and a bunch of trailers. They put it out in the woods for hunting and camping and whatnot. Down south cousins suggest that we make the suggestion we should go over there to camp. Now I'm a city kid from Chicago, so they tease the fuck out of me. Collect food, kill a pig and some chickens, and bring necessities to camp for a few days. And we get to camp. And it's obvious. Something's weird. Doesn't feel right. The air has this weird electric smell, like right before a storm, like ozone. We think nothing of it, and unpack, and go to a little creek to swim for a few hours. All of a sudden, some older white guy and a white teenager come out of the bushes. He has a shotgun in the crook of his arm and says, "Hello," and asks us what we're doing this far back in the woods. Tell him about my uncle, who he knows, by the way, and says we're camping out. He tells us we need to be real careful out here and stick together. There was a big animal in the woods. His son, who is my age, asks if he can stay and hang out with us. He says okay. I'm going to stop green texting because the story is fairly long and the format is harder to write in. I probably should have skipped that part. Anyway, we're back in the story. So we end up playing football. We're dicking around. There's the white kid Tanner, 5 of my cousins, and then 4 of their friends in total. There were 5 girls and 6 boys. We are all around, we're between 15 to 17 years old. We ended up just dicking the day away, so we head back to camp and pulling out some stuff for a campfire, even though the trailers both had kitchenettes. Tanner says that his family's property sits up against my uncle's. He wants to run home and ask his dad if he can come out camping with us. My cousin Rooster says he's going to go with him, since it's going to get dark soon. One of the girls also wants to tag along. Now it's about 7 o'clock p.m. and it's starting to get pretty freaking dark. They take flashlights and take the trail toward Tan's property. The rest of us chill. We make s'mores, drink, kiss the sexy girls. About 30 to 40 minutes later, there's the smell of ozone again. You could smell it over the smell of the fire we had started. This really nasty coppery smell, like right after you've had a nosebleed and it stopped. It wasn't exactly like dried blood, but it was that nasty metallic back of your throat smell and taste. Immediately, we think that it's some kind of an electrical malfunction or someone left a hot plate on or some shit. We search the trailers and nothing is on, and we can all smell it. All of a sudden, we can hear people booking down the path towards us, and Rooster, Tan, and the girl all come running up into the clearing out of breath. They don't even break stride. They all run into the trailer right by where the fire is. We all get the fuck out of there and into the trailers. They end up calming down. Even Rooster is crying his fucking eyes out at this point. All the while, the fire is guttering lower and lower. So my other cousin says, fuck it, and are about to go outside to get the generator out of the shed between the trailers, Tanner goes, "Fuck no! Fuck no! Lock the fucking door! Ain't nobody else going outside." He's been crying too, and his eyes are bloodshot and puffy, and his pants are dirty as shit. He goes on to tell us that they went up to his house. His father said sure, he could go out camping with us, but to make sure they were careful on the way back, and that maybe they should take one of his hunting rifles, just in case. Evidently Tanner had seen something in their yard a few days before. One of their pigs had come up, ripped up, and half eaten. They assumed it was just some big cats or coyotes, even though they don't usually fuck with live animals. He had gone upstairs and packed his stuff, and told his dad they would be okay without the rifle because coyotes avoid people. So they started walking back towards where we were camping. So Rooster finally stops crying and shaking. The girl already had, but she was just staring out the window with a dumb look on her face. He says they had got halfway into the woods towards the camp when they started to hear shit in the forest. It was almost pitch black by this time, so they weren't sure at first what the fuck it was. The girl says that she heard something in the bushes right off the trail, and they all beamed their flashlights over there. And there was someone standing back in the woods in a little hollow. Rooster said they shouted at him and told him that he was scaring the fuck out of them and what a dick he was. He says when he realized that the guy was facing away from them, so they keep walking and they start smelling that nasty coppery ozone smell. They say they look off into the forest on the opposite side, and it's a dude standing in the forest backward, slightly closer to the path. So now they start power walking, and Tan keeps going. I should have taken the fucking rifle, he says. As they're telling the story, the smell is super strong, even inside the cabin. They say that after they started walking faster, a kind of low gibbering had started coming from both sides of the wood. And as they started booking it back to the trailer, the girl said she had flashed her flashlight out in the woods to the side of them and had seen something jerking itself through the woods. The gibbering just got louder and louder, and when they could see the light from our campfire, something had come out of the woods about 40 yards behind them in the back track, and they had just flat out ran as hard as they could to get to the trailer. So we're out in the fucking woods, and we're assuming at this point some rednecks or some shit trying to fuck with us. All of a sudden, my other cousin Junior starts going on about how we went to school with a native kid that was telling him about the goat man or some shit. We promptly tell him to shut the fuck up because we don't need any spooky talk right now. But he just keeps going on and on about how it's the fucking goat man and how we're in his woods and blah blah blah. Now at the time, I had never heard of this goat man or any bullshit like that. But then a couple of years ago, the year before I graduated from college, I had a Menem for a roommate, on Menem night for a roommate, and I ended up asking him about it. And to sum it up, it basically a fucking man with a head of a goat, and he can shapeshift and get among groups of people to terrorize them. It also supposed to be kind of like the Wendigo. And it's bad mojo to even talk about it, and even worse if you see the fucking thing. So keep in mind, I didn't know this back when I was 16, so my cousin is going, the goat man's going to get in and fucking get us. The girls are all terrified, and my cousins and I are fucking trying to figure out if it's just some hillbillies or if it's some animal. So all of a sudden the smell just goes away. Like this day, I haven't even experienced anything like that. Like usually smells fade away or lessen, but it just literally was there 1 second and gone the next. So it's after an hour, making it around 9 or 10. We've stopped shitting bricks enough to go back outside and stoke the fire again. We figure it was just some assholes trying to fuck with us. so we don't go back home. So we don't go back home. Because we think if we do, they'll chase us through the woods or some crazy shit. Nothing else weird happens that night, and we stay another night. And for the main part of the night, nothing happens. But at about 1 in the morning, we're outside getting drunk and telling ghost stories as someone is finishing some spooky story. I don't remember what about. The smell comes back. It was so fucking strong that one of the girls literally started vomiting. I stand up, and you can actually feel how clammy the air is. I say we should get inside. This isn't right. We should have just fucking left. We all go back inside, and we're standing around. My cousin just keeps going on and on about the fucking goat man, and my cousin Rooster tries to shut him the fuck up. And while I'm just feeling that something is wrong, I can't figure out what the fuck it is. We end up sitting there for a while, and the smell is strong, and we're getting terrified, and all huddled in this camper. We end up cooking brats for everybody because nobody wants to go outside. It's one of those packs with 4 brats. We have a total of 3 packs. I grill them up on the stove and give everybody a hot dog. I get mine. After a while, one of my cousins gets up and goes over to the pot to get another one. He starts grumbling about how I get 2 brats and everybody else got 1. And I look at him like he's fucking stupid. I tell him that everybody only got 1 because there were only 12 brats. If he wants more, he should open up a new fucking pack and make his ass some brats. That's when the girl that had been out with Rooster and Tan just started screaming, "Oh Jesus, oh Lord, get it out!" She's crying and shivering, and then it dawns on the cousin standing up. What the fuck is wrong? Me and him both glance around the room, and then I feel my heart fucking sink. I run the fuck out of the cabin, and the girls run out with us. The trailer door is banging against the side of the trailer as everybody books out of the cabin. One of my cousin's friends asked us what the fuck was wrong. I started counting us. There's only 11 now. I shit you not. My cousin verified there had been 12 people in the cabin. But being that everybody didn't really know each other that well, nobody had really noticed the whole fucking time that there was an extra person. And then I realized earlier that I had that kind of noticed something was off. You know how when you're just dicking around, having a good time, that you don't sweat the small shit and you don't always keep track of certain stuff? I'm dead sure that someone else had been in that trailer with us, and that they had been there for at least a whole fucking day, eating with us. What makes it worse, I could figure out which one, because I don't think anyone ever actually interacted with the other person, the goat man. The girl kept praying to Jesus, and we're all sitting outside. Eventually we get big ass sticks and go into the cabin, but there's nobody there. We count again. There's 11 people. We go back into the trailer, lock the door, we explain what the fuck happened, and the girl says that she realized too. And that when he was about to say something, the person sitting next to her had grabbed her leg and leaned over toward her and said something she couldn't understand. So we are pretty much scared as fuck as we huddle together and fall asleep. When I wake up, the sun is just coming up, and half the people are asleep, and the other half are packing our shit up. We all want back home, but like 4 people want to stay until the sun is all the way up. And some people think that we're just fucking around and still want to stay at the trailers. I just want to get the fuck out of the woods. The girl's name was Kira, the one that the goat man had touched. Anyway, I asked her if she really thinks it's something bad, and she says she just wants to go home and doesn't want to be out in the woods alone for another night. So we decide to split up. The 4 that want to go can go, but I have to stay because I have the keys to the cabin, and it's my uncle's, and I have to lock it up. I'm super pissed at this point because I feel like people aren't taking this shit seriously, and I definitely didn't want to be out in the woods for another fucking night. I spend the rest of the day trying to convince the rest of the people, now 4 girls and 4 guys, to get the fuck out of Dodge. Tanner leaves with them to go get a rifle and says he's gonna be back. So there are just 7 of us now. It's 4 p.m. Around 5, he hasn't made it back yet, and we're getting extremely fucking antsy. And the only reason I stopped begging them to go back was because he went to get a fucking gun. It's about 5:30 p.m. or so now, when the one cousin that did stay said the girl, Kira, is outside. We all look outside, and sure enough, she's standing by the fire pit with her back to the cabin. I'm thinking to myself, if she was so fucking scared, why the hell would she come back? And then I got this nasty feeling in my gut. Keep in mind, the whole time that coppery smell has been gone. Now I realize I can smell just a twinge of it. I say this to the rest of them and everybody. And these are the people that wanted to stay in the fucking woods. After we had the gosh damn goat man in our midst, it's laughing at me and asking if I set this up to scare them. I'm looking at them like I'm not fucking bullshitting you, alright? I asked them, why the fuck would I play like that? So one of the girls goes outside to get Kira. She gets halfway to her and stops cold. Kira starts heaving. I don't know how the fuck to describe it. It's sort of like if someone with their back turned was laughing without actually making any sound. It was this fact that made me realize there was not a fucking sound in the whole woods. It was dead silent. This was later in September, so it was still fairly hot at this time, but it was super chilly some days too, and you could usually hear big ass geese honking or some kind of birds or squirrels chit-chatting. So I step out the door and tell her to come back in the fucking trailer right now. She backs up into the trailer and we lock the fucking door. We pull down the shades except one and put a guy there in a chair to watch her. She stands there for another 20 minutes or so. The guy turns to say that she's still there, and there's a huge fucking bang on the door. Bang! 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 We all jump the fuck up and scramble around the living room for the trailer. The banging is super fucking loud, so now my cousin is holding one of the girls, and the other two are kind of giggling with nervous laughter. And me, I'm the other two guys are sitting, we're all shitting bricks. Then we hear Tan. He's freaking screaming, let me the fuck in! Stop fucking playing! So we go over to the door and open it, and he stumbles in with a rifle. There's nobody else outside. Evidently, he had walked up to the campsite. Nothing weird happened in the forest, but he had seen the girl, mind you. He said it was not Kira standing there. When he had gotten to the edge of the clearing, she had turned toward him with this slack-jawed look and just stared him down, slowly tracking him as he walked around the outside of the clearing towards the camp. He said it wasn't till he was almost halfway to the trailer he had realized that she was getting closer to him. She had started off by the fire, and without him even seeing her, she had been turning, inching closer. He said he just ran the rest of the way back to the cabin, thinking it would open. And when he got to the door and it was locked, he turned and it was about half the distance to the door. He looks around the room and then gasps, gets super pale. He pulls me to the side and whispers in my ear, you know, there are only 7 of us in here, right? I get that feeling where your stomach drops to your nuts. It had been back inside the trailer while we were out sorting out what was going on, what was where. And then, when we all went outside to talk earlier in the day, it had just slipped right back in. We looked out the window and there was nobody freaking there. So we recount everybody. And basically, I go over and ask everyone how many people were here earlier. And everybody says 8. I say, well, how many are here now? They all do a count and realize there are now only 7 people in the cabin. So Tan had brought back a couple boxes of ammo and his rifle. And he had told his dad there was some kind of animal in the forest because he didn't think his dad would believe him if he said it was the goat man. He says that his cousin is supposed to be coming down in a few hours and that in the morning we can all go back to his place and his cousin will drive us home. Now I'm really fucking terrified, but at least I feel better because we can be American and shoot the fuck out of whatever it is that comes back at us. But then my cousin gets into this huge argument with one of the girls because she thinks that I'm trying to be funny and prank them. And that's, she's really getting scared and that I'm not funny. He keeps telling her I'm not fucking around. I'm not that kind of a person. And she says, well, how do we know the girl wasn't just Tanner in a wig? Or if it's really the Goat Man, how do we know that it's real Tanner? How do we know it's the real Tanner? And the Goat Man didn't just kill Tanner in the woods and take his gun. So we fucking get into this huge argument about this, where me and Tanner, like, we could seriously be in danger, because at the very least, someone has been sneaking themselves into our fucking trailer without us knowing, and mingling with us. And at worst, something bad is in the fucking forest, fucking with us. One of the girls is crying and saying she wants to go right now, and we're trying to tell her we shouldn't, because none of us are walking through the woods in the middle of the night. At this point, the sun is starting to go down and it's getting a little cloudy out. We eat something and turn on the radio for a while, but we can't really get a station out there with anything decent. So we turn it off, and about that time, Tan's cousin shows up. He is like 19, I think. At this point, the sun is just barely over the horizon and has one of those heavy-duty lantern flashlights and another rifle. He walks up to the trailer and we whisper to Tan, asking if he's sure that his cousin, and he says, the guy looks behind him. Ask if he's sure it's his cousin. He says yes. The guy looks behind him and all around the camp, then walks in. He kind of glances at all of us and looks a little confused. He says, where's your other little buddy at? I figured she would meet me up at the cabin. Is she a little slow or something? He also asked where we had been cooking blood in the cabin, because it smelled like blood and hot pans all the way up the trail. We were all like, fucking nope. But we asked him what the fuck he's talking about with this girl he saw. He had come down the same trail Tan had been using, and he had come up on one of you guys' buddies standing in the middle of the trail, looking at him, slack-jawed. He had asked her a bunch of questions, but all she did was just look at him. Then she smiled at him, and he said he just kept walking. She couldn't seem to keep up with him and kept lagging a little behind him. He said he asked her if she was hurt or something, and if she needed any help, but she had continued to stare. Eventually, he had been walking and turned around a bend in the trail, but when he turned around and went back to see if she was okay, the trail was empty. He'd assumed she had taken some shortcut through the woods to our trailer. Part 1.